Welcome to this interview session on RadioNow 95.3 FM Lagos. My name is Abiodun Adelore, and my guest today is Mr. Lucky Idike Jnr., who is the CEO of Afro Flavour. And our focus today is on gastro diplomacy, and that's an African cuisine for cultural influence and global relations. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's nice to have you around.
Nice to be here.
Yes. So what exactly is gastro diplomacy?
Okay, so the gastro diplomacy essentially is food diplomacy. It's what nations do to project their cuisine on a global scale. And a lot of people think that it's really a culture thing, but the reality is that gastro diplomacy is actually a trade tool, because when you project your national cuisine on the global stage, the objective is for many people who haven't consumed it before to start to consume it. And when that consumption goes up, the exports from your country of that cuisine go up, your trade goes up, and you make a lot of money out of that. So for example, there's South Korea has created something called kimchi. They put a lot of money into kimchi. 2024, the exports of kimchi crossed $300 million. That's significant revenue from one product. Thailand has done the same thing with Thai food, and we all know how Thai food has gone. So gastro diplomacy is essentially a trade tool. It enables nations improve or increase their trade with the world by enhancing consumption of their cuisine outside their country.
So how does food and cuisine play a role in shaping cultural identity and national image?
So the reality is that today, for example, there's a lot of influence countries wield because of the food that they have popularized. I mean, the phrase English breakfast is probably one of the most common phrases in the world. Everybody wants to eat an English breakfast. And when you talk about English breakfast, you're really talking about the United Kingdom, the English people. So that is a phrase that's deep in the psyche of many millions of people across the world every time they order English breakfast. So what happens with cuisine and gastro diplomacy is that when you project your country on the world stage, people try your cuisine, they like the cuisine, they find out more about the country. And experts have told us that maybe 60% of decisions on where to go for holidays is driven by food. Thailand, for example, is a huge hot spot for tourism. You know, the British people, the Americans, they all fly in and out of Thailand to have a fantastic time. And the cuisine is a very strong draw in that.
So what inspired you to explore the connection between food, culture, and diplomacy?
Okay, so it's very interesting. I spend some of the time in the UK every year because my wife and kids live there. And in the process of that, I thought I would start a business in the UK. And the business I was interested in doing was a restaurant. Maybe 10, 12 years ago, I used to have about 8 to 10 shawarma shops in Lagos. And it was quite a profitable business. I like food. I mean, obviously, you can tell that I like to eat. And I realized that food is a huge industry. You know what I mean? For example, Coca-Cola, the drink, more expensive than crude oil per liter. So food is a huge industry. I like food. And I thought, okay, I'd start an African restaurant. I'd buy an African restaurant in the UK. Well, actually, so the initial plan was to buy a restaurant, and then it was, should I buy an African restaurant? Should I buy a Chinese restaurant? Should I just buy a regular English pub? And one of the things so I decided to spend time in African restaurants because that was my first choice, right? And then I realized that the market is not as wide as we like to think it is. And I found out something really curious, you know, from an analysis in the UK and in the US, that the market for African cuisine is not as wide as we would like it to be. Majority of the customers for African cuisine are Africans. And we find that Nigerians tend to go mostly to Nigerian restaurants. The Ghanaians go mostly to Ghanaian restaurants. The Cameroonians go to Cameroonian restaurants. And there's not a lot of there's not a lot of tasting of other patronizing of other nations' cuisine by Africans. And there's not enough of non-Africans patronizing African cuisine. So it occurred to me that what the market needed was a force to deepen it. And I sat back and spent a bit of time thinking about the problem, and that's how we created the company called Afro Flavour. And our vision at Afro Flavour is to mainstream African cuisine. We believe that Africa has a lot of amazing cuisine that the world will appreciate. A lot of our textures and flavors are similar to Chinese and Thai. And a lot of our food is actually extremely therapeutic. So we thought, look, if we could put a platform together to put this information out there and get people trying and tasting African cuisine, they would realize how amazing it was. And then they would then be able to patronize it more, and it would result in increased trade between Africa and the rest of the world. I mean, jollof rice, for example, is one of our hottest products out of Africa. And it's doing quite well. It's growing, the attraction,
and they have the different
acceptance
variants,
is growing.
the Ghana jollof rice and...
Yeah. So one of the things we do to promote African cuisine is we do a food festival. It's called the Afro Food Festival. And a huge component of that festival is what we call the Jollof Wars. Initially, we used to call it the Jollof Wars, but now we call it the Jollof War, Jollof Love now, because we believe that Africa has enough wars. So we've transmuted from Jollof Wars to Jollof Love. And that's basically a cook-off between cooks or chefs from different countries. So we have 4 or 5 countries, and they're cooking the jollof rice on the spot. You know, so they bring the broth and they add the rice and they boil it on the spot. We have a panel of judges, they taste and they judge based on certain criteria. And Africa has many different varieties of jollof. The Senegalese and the Gambians believe that they own jollof, but I think Nigerians can be credited with smoky jollof. We gave the world the smoky jollof rice, and I think our jollof rice is the best. At our last event in Houston, the Nigerian jollof won. At our event in Manchester last year, the Senegalese jollof won. Senegalese jollof is amazing, I must tell the truth, but you know, we're the kings of jollof. The new
All right,
kings
on a
of
lighter
jollof.
note, I actually wanted to ask that, okay, from your experience, which of those jollof rice is the best?
I won't answer that at you. I would answer that.
Because there's always been that controversy of, oh, the Ghana jollof rice, the Nigerian jollof rice, and all that.
If I was to answer that question, I think Senegalese jollof is pretty much number one in Africa. It's amazing. And they cook it in an unusual way. But yeah, so that's it.
I guess I'll need to look forward to that.
Yes, you should try. You should come to our next event, our next food festival, which will be in Manchester in July 2025. And you're part of the Jollof Wars and you see who wins.
So how can gastro diplomacy facilitate a cross-cultural exchange and understanding between nations? You just talked about the jollof rice now.
Okay. You know, food is a huge component of every nation's culture. When we receive visitors from outside, we usually put a presentation of food in front of them. Then we also showcase our music, our dance, our drama. And this is how man has lived going back thousands of years, right? Every time strangers come, there's a display of food, dance, drama. So food is a key part of our culture. And it's one of the ways we introduce our culture to other people. They try the foods, they see our flavors, the textures, the taste, and it contributes to their understanding of our culture. And I find that not only Africa, most other countries, food is never presented alone. It's always the lead agent, but it's always followed by dance, drama, fashion, and all the other elements of culture. So food leads the way and everything else follows. So food is key in introducing your culture to another nation.
So what role can food play in breaking down cultural stereotypes and promoting empathy?
So the thing is, and it works like this, when you taste another country's food, you try it and you realize that, look, the food is amazing, it's nice. It changes your perception of them. And it also predisposes you to buying stuff from them. Today, every nation in the world, I don't know a country in the world that doesn't eat Chinese food. The Chinese people are present in all of these countries to grow that industry. And once you open a pipeline for the ingredients to come into your country, you quickly find that everything else comes along that pipeline. You know, so first you start with buying the food, then you start with buying almost everything else from them. Technology, cars, everything. You know, so that's how food changes the perception of a nation. Today in America, there's a huge buzz around boba tea, which is from, I think, Korea. There's also a huge buzz around kimchi, which is from Korea as well. So these things are interesting, and this is the way nations are conquering the world now. with their food.
That's interesting. So how can gastro diplomacy be used as a tool for nations branding and then promoting national interest?
Okay, so Taiwan launched a gastro diplomacy program. They called it From Dim Sum, which is a dish, from dim sum to made in Taiwan. And the summary of that statement is, first you eat our food, then you buy our products. So if you're promoting your nation's food abroad, more and more people are consuming the food. They become more favorably disposed towards your country. You find that tourism, inward-bound tourism, will grow. Export of food materials will grow. Okay? And not just food, like I said, once you open that pipeline, everything else can grow, can go along that pipeline. Your fashion, your music, your movies, and all of these other things can go along that pipeline. And I find these days that media plays a huge role in the mainstreaming of a nation's cuisine. A lot of people watch the Korean dramas on TV. They are curious about the dishes they see them eat. They see those dishes, they want to taste them, they want to try them. And we find that there's an increase in awareness about Korean cuisine. A few months ago in Abuja, the Korean Cultural Center in Nigeria was teaching a bunch of Nigerian chefs about kimchi, how to make kimchi. So they're looking for customers for kimchi in Nigeria. We should be in Korea looking for customers for our dishes. Ofada rice is a dish that's indigenous to Nigeria. Ayamashi stew is a dish that's indigenous to us. So I think that Nigeria needs to pick a few dishes, put a lot of effort behind those dishes to globalize them, to make them popular abroad, and we will see a growth in the consumption of those dishes, which will translate into an improvement in our image as a country. People eat your food, they have a healthy respect for you. It will also grow trade between us and the rest of the world.
So talking about universal language now, how can food be used as a universal language to bridge cultural and linguistic divides?
Cultural and linguistic divides exist. Every culture, most nations have their own language. But food is universal. We put food on the table, we have a meal together, we establish some form of brotherhood. We're breaking down those barriers, we're breaking down those divides, we're promoting unity across board. That's how food works. So for example, you've got a delegation of Nigerian businessmen going to America or China. A lot of the interactions will involve food to create a sense of camaraderie and brotherliness while we then focus on the business issues.
All right, so what are some common culinary traditions or ingredients that transcend national borders?
So, well, it depends on the country you're talking about. If you're talking about Africa, I find that a lot of African countries have a goosey soup. You know, a lot of African countries have jollof rice. And I think that before the colonial masters carved up Africa into different countries, we're all just one group of people living across massive spaces, and we exchange ideas on food, and some of these dishes found their way around the whole of Africa. So you'll find that, for example, many different countries in Africa have like a version of jollof rice. In fact, actually, many different countries in the world have a version of jollof rice. Jollof is essentially a one-pot dish, tomato-based, and the Spaniards, for example, have a paella that is similar to our jollof rice. And, you know, so that's just one example.
All right, I'd like to ask, what are some potential challenges or limitations of gastro diplomacy, such as cultural appropriation or food safety concerns?
So beyond cultural appropriation and food safety concerns, there are also, for example, logistics issues. So getting Nigerian food abroad, it has a reputation for being pricey. Now, one of the reasons why Chinese food is so widespread is because for many in the US and UK, Chinese food is cheap and affordable. But Nigerian food, by contrast, tends to be a bit more expensive than that. And Nigerian food entrepreneurs abroad will tell you that, you know, it's difficult to get food materials out of the country. So it costs more to get stuff out of Nigeria. So when it gets there, they have to factor that into their pricing. So their food is naturally more expensive. Students who went to school in the US and UK know that, Chinese food is cheap and cheerful. They'll fill you up for a while, and then, it's very cost effective. Nigerian food is not quite like that. So logistical barriers are a big issue. Nigeria needs to work on the systems that impede the export of food material. If we don't do that, we will find that other countries will step in and provide those materials. And we will lose that market. Okay, in terms of cultural appropriation, I am sure you saw a video that was on Instagram recently about some lady who had, the way ofada rice is wrapped in a green leaf.
Yeah, okay, the leaf, yeah.
Yes. It'll be easy. There's really no rules stopping China, for example, from manufacturing jollof rice that's ready to go.
It was actually a Chinese lady who did that.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah, that is it. There's really nothing stopping China from manufacturing jollof rice in ready-to-go packs. There's a market there. If they push, they can take the market before we do. And there are many other items like that. The drink, Chapman, it's a company in the UK that actually makes Chapman. The story behind Chapman, the recipe was first created in Ikoyi Club. So they were the two guys who started the company. I think either one of them or both of them was in Nigeria as a youth and tasted Chapman in Ikoyi Club. So today they're in the UK, they're manufacturing Chapman and they're making money out of it. We're not. So this is another example of how cultures can be appropriated by other people who see the opportunity and a position to move and take advantage of that opportunity when the owners of the opportunity are not able at that time or to do what they need to do.
They're probably not seeing it.
Well, so there is the seeing, there's also the ability to execute what you see.
Yes.
A lot of Nigerians have dreams and aspirations, but dreams and aspirations need the right environment to thrive. Without the right environment, dreams die.
All right, so what role can education and cultural sensitivity play in ensuring the success of gastro-diplomacy initiatives?
Okay, education is interesting. Let me tell you about Global Thai. About the early 2000s, the Thai government decided that they wanted to make Thai cuisine more mainstream, more popular. So they set out to open, the target was initially, I think, 8,000 Thai restaurants by 2003. To do this, they started training Thai chefs. And they put a whole program together that they call Global Thai. So they trained thousands of chefs. And investors were encouraged to take a Thai chef, get some money from the Thai government, and start a Thai restaurant in your country. Okay? Today, there are over 30,000 Thai restaurants in the world. And I think about 11 or 12,000 of those are in America. Now, the Thai government invested in educating these chefs. The returns to Thailand on that investment today are significant. So that's one way that education plays a role in pushing gastro-diplomacy. They didn't stop there. A little while later, they created a system called Thai Select. So they basically rank restaurants. They review them, they assess them. And if your restaurant meets certain criteria, they give you a badge. You're now a Thai Select restaurant. So people who want to eat authentic Thai food, if you see a restaurant that has a Thai Select symbol or logo or badge, you know that in this place you'll find authentic Thai food. So today Thailand is a big force in the global cuisine industry, and this thing started in the early 2000s, barely 25 years ago. So it can be done. Education is key to doing it. And Nigeria is uniquely poised to launch a massive gastro-diplomacy initiative. And I'll tell you why. Everybody knows Chakwa. We have literally millions of Nigerians who are living outside this country. They all hunger for home. They want to eat their home cuisine. They have children. They want to introduce the cuisine to these children. They have friends who have what I call culinary curiosity. They want to try new dishes. So what we should do is create a system that makes all our Nigerians in the diaspora, makes them ambassadors of Nigerian cuisine. Get them to make a conscious effort to put Nigerian cuisine in front of their non-Nigerian friends on a regular basis. And you'll find that the acceptance of our traditional dishes will grow. My younger son has friends in his, but both my sons have friends in their school who want to eat what they call orange rice. That's jollof rice. It's nice, it's tasty, they like it. So they say, oh, bring orange rice tomorrow. It's not orange rice, it's jollof rice. You know. So if we let them change the name, that's also part of cultural appropriation. You know. Okay. So the first example, or the first answer to that question, what I just said, Nigerians who live abroad, you have a duty to become ambassadors of Nigerian cuisine to your non-Nigerian friends. Present it in a way that's palatable. My father used to tell me that, you know, it's one thing for the cook to, for the food you have cooked to taste nice, but it also has to be appealing to the eye. So your presentation of the cuisine must be top-notch so that people want to eat it when they see it. It looks attractive. So they also have to do that, not just present the food, they have to present it in a way that's attractive. So if each Nigerian abroad commits to doing that, and they commit to also tasting and trying out their own food and also other African dishes, we will find that African gastrodiplomacy will go far. In addition to that, the other thing that individuals in Nigeria can do is make sure the food they produce are export ready, meet standards that they can go everywhere in the world. There's a lot of interest around African cuisine. In fact, I say this is Africa's age and Africa is rising. Our music has gone global. Our movies have gone global. Our fashion is going global. You know, Nigerian fashion brands are making their mark on the global stage now. I think it's time for Nigerian food to go global. All that it needs is a concerted approach. People have done it before. We can copy and innovate, and we can deliver tremendous value. China is doing something in the region of $60 billion worth of food exports every year. That's huge. Italy is exporting a lot of pasta, gelato, and they're making a significant sum from that every year. We've got a lot of dishes that we can export. There's a lot of controversy about the ownership of jollof rice, but nobody will dispute that we're the owners of smoky jollof rice. But we have a lot of other dishes. Egusi, well, again, egusi, it's in different countries, but it's also trending. But we should find 5 or 6 indigenous dishes that we can push out there and make popular on the global scale. What that will do is help us bring a lot of tourists in. The increase in trade between Nigeria and other countries will help drive agro-industrial development. It will improve the incomes of Nigerian farmers and everybody else who's in this food value chain.
So what future directions or trends do you see emerging in the field of gastro-diplomacy?
I think more and more African countries are taking gastro-diplomacy seriously. I've heard that the Ethiopians, for example, in the US have put some money behind some of their restaurateurs to enable these restaurants push Ethiopian cuisine out there. If you fly Ethiopian Air, I mean, I don't know if they still do that, but a few years ago when I flew Ethiopian Air, they actually offer you 2 choices of dishes. They offer you an Ethiopian meal and then they offer you a regular continental meal because they're trying to get people to taste their food, like the food, try the food, and go home and then continue to eat the food. We've got Nigerian Airlines. I've never flown Air Peace to London, but I hear that they offer a lot of amazing Nigerian cuisine. What we need to do is to push that and then get Air Peace to become global. There was also a push recently to get all the airlines who fly in and out of Nigeria, regardless of their country of origin, to serve some Nigerian cuisine as well. That will be helpful in putting Nigerian cuisine out there. I know, for example, Virgin Atlantic serves jollof rice on some of their flights and suya and other African dishes. Slowly and steadily, things are moving. But the future of gastrodiplomacy is that it will become more important. It'll be a platform for Africa to reach out and showcase a different side of Africa to the world. It'll be a platform for us to build commerce and then through that commerce, build industry as well.
All right, as we begin to round off now, what's your final message about the power of gastro-diplomacy in promoting cultural understanding and exchange?
Well, cultural understanding and exchange is it's a huge field, right? It's a huge topic. But it basically involves, getting to know different people's cultures and So the whole idea of all of that cultural exchange is to promote unity and trade. So the more you know about me, the more you're willing to do business with me, the more you buy my products, and the more I buy yours. A lot of countries have taken the lead. I mean, we talk about English breakfast or American breakfast. When you say the American, people know what you're talking about when you say American breakfast. So we have to get, for example, the Nigerian breakfast out there so that people know that this is a 3 or 4 typical Nigerian breakfast. What's the Nigerian breakfast? Pap and akara or moi moi. You know, that's a typical Nigerian breakfast. Or if you're a Robo like me, yam and pepper soup, which we call ukodo. That's a typical Robo breakfast. All these are dishes that can globalize. And the more our dishes go out there, the more people understand who we are. They see our culture, they accept us, they're more willing to do business with us, and the better it is for our economy. There's a reason why China is on its way to becoming the largest country in the world. And it's not unconnected to the fact that Chinese food is sold in every country, and there are Chinese people in every country who are driving not just the food, but also the industry that comes behind the food.
All right, Mr. Idike, I'd like to thank you very much for your time and expertise on this conversation. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here, and I look forward to seeing RadioNow put their considerable media might behind the concept of gastro-diplomacy for Nigeria and also for Africa. I think that Nigeria can lead the African gastro-diplomatic initiative if we get our stuff together. Thank you.
All right, we've been speaking with Mr. Lucky Idike, who is the CEO of Afro Flavour, and then we've been talking about gastro-diplomacy and that's an African cuisine for cultural influence and global relations. And that's our package for today. Till we come again, my name is Abiodun Adelore.